Austin, Texas government press release. This is the office of the police chief. You guys can just document, Cam, and I have it right here. Statement from Chief Art Aceveda regarding Antonio Buehler grand jury indictments. He said, we appreciate the thorough investigative and review process where they told you to drop your case against them. Antonio Buehler joins us. He's a political activist in Austin, Texas, most well known for his activism in police accountability, which stemmed from his controversial arrest in Austin on New Year's Day 2012 after he witnessed a woman he alleges was being abused by Austin police officers. His activist work is funneled through the Peaceful Streets Project. He founded with the help of other local activists, and that's why they're now indicting him. He is a West Point graduate and airport ranger, qualified former military officer with tours in Kosovo and Iraq. He also works as a teacher, homeschooling specialist. That's terrorist. Man, that's really, you're a veteran, too. That's the worst part. And college and MBA admissions consultant. During the breaks, you're out here doing that. AntonioBuehler.com is the website. We'll put that up on screen for folks. We're going to skip this break because we're in overdrive right now. I got to tell you, here is the magazine where our reporters, for TV viewers out there, other folks can just go to Infowars.com and see it. Look right here. It's our reporters, or our crew, being given tickets for handing out magazines. And the police admitted to me on the phone, we've never been told to do this before, but we're going to do it. And until I went down there and threatened to sue them, then they backed off and said, we're sorry, but which is even creepier. Because if I was to sue them, they'd probably just indict me for it, which I guess you've got to, well, now we're indicting Alex for handing out magazines. Antonio, I mean, wow, a year later, because you have it back down, they are now, and everybody's seen the footage from across the street. Somebody else shot that. I mean, the cop comes at you and is grabbing at you, not wanting it to be on tape. And now the good grand jury, hey, same kind of folks indicted the guy in Williamson County they knew was innocent. I mean, so maybe you need to go to prison, boy.
Well, they want me to, that's for sure. They don't like it when people are out there exposing them for their crimes.
Well, I tell you, but we're sure a free country. Did you ever imagine when you were in Kosovo and Iraq and places you'd be being indicted for this?
No, and quite frankly, everyone told me how I was protecting freedoms overseas and all that stuff, but I feel like I'm doing more to do it by fighting the police here because the police are the real domestic terrorists, unfortunately, in this country.
Well, they certainly are trying to turn them into that, yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, like in New York, they would have just probably beat you to death. I mean, as bad as they are, it's kind of bad like when, the Austin police are, in my opinion, are pretty good compared to a lot of them. But I agree with it. They did to you totally wrong. And I guess Aceveda is doubling down on you.
It's actually kind of funny. I mean, when's the last time you saw a police chief give a press release for someone who got indicted on a Class C misdemeanor? It's a traffic ticket, right? And so they couldn't get me on the felony because there's 6 witnesses that say that the cops lied. There was video, there was audio, 2 videos actually. So they knew that they couldn't do that, but they had to save face. So they went ahead and got me on 4 misdemeanors for failure to obey.
Failure to obey the order of a police officer. But the message, the way the media said was, you're allowed to film, but you got to obey and not film when we say.
Right. They'll come up with an order, and then when you don't jump through the hoops fast enough, when they tell you to go move back 60 feet and you only move back 50 feet, then they can arrest you for failure to obey.
Well, my only issue is this. America is being collapsed. Do the cops think the globalists that are taking over this country are going to care about their rights after they've taken yours?
And that's the thing that bothers me the most about it is they're dispensable. They're just like soldiers. The government doesn't care about them. They'll throw them to the side just like the soldiers.
Well, in fact, they hate them. There's nobody they hate more than a citizen trained to fight after they're done with you.
Right. And as long as you're on their side doing their bidding, you're okay. But once you stand up and become an oath keeper, for example, then you become a threat.
Well, they're really scared of oath keepers.
Yeah, definitely.
Now they're taking veterans' children if they get caught with half a marijuana cigarette. Mm-hmm. Imagine. They can also plant that on you. I mean, it should all be decriminalized right now. The government ships in the hard drugs. They're trying to put the kids on the hard prescription drugs. I mean, what a joke. End it all now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the drug war is it's used to punish the people and help out the prison systems, the pharmaceutical companies, and it just feeds the system. More people in the system, more people in jail, the better off they are.
Well, yeah, people can make excuses about this, but we have the largest prison population in the world. For those that don't know about your case, recap what happened.
I was designated driver on New Year's Day, 2012. I was driving my buddy home. We were running out of gas, pulled into the 7-Eleven on Lamar and West 10th, and there was a DUI stop in progress. We watched it. We didn't want to get involved. We were getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden, Robert Snyder, an APD cop, started ripping the female passenger out of the car, throwing her to the ground. Patrick Okorski joined in. They were twisting her arms behind her back in a torture move. And so I tried to take pictures, and when she started screaming, begging me to record it, I started yelling to the cops, telling them to stop. Okorski then assaulted me, started pushing me around, and then because he assaulted me, he had to have an excuse to assault me, so he said I spit in his face, which is a third-degree felony, carries 2 to 10 years.
But unfortunately for him, there was multiple cameras taping it.
Yeah, there was a guy across the street who stepped forward, who had cell phone video, and there were other witnesses who stepped forward. And so I'm probably one of the luckiest guys to ever get charged with a bogus felony, because I had a bunch of witnesses who were willing to step forward. All of them were pretty credible witnesses, too.
But, man, let me tell you, that is so scary to falsely, because I've seen this so many times in my life. I've had it threatened with me when I knew cops were dealing drugs in Dallas. And they said, we'll plant drugs on you. We'll say you stole stereo equipment, when they knew I didn't have a criminal record, didn't steal stuff. And then beat me up behind closed doors, saying, next time you're dead, basically. Imagine framing people and feeling good about it. And it'd be one thing if you framed a axe murderer who had gotten out wrongly. I still wouldn't do that, because then you become the devil. You're fighting. But imagine just framing innocent people like Michael Morton, just with pleasure. I mean, they just do it. And it seems like the better a person is, the more fun it is to frame them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's amazing, because I was waiting for people to come out, good cops on the inside, to come out and say, we reject this, to go after the police chief. But Internal Affairs, the police chief, Anthony Hippolito, they all lined up and supported this this cover-up. It was essentially a cover-up, and they were willing to destroy my life and Norma's life in order to protect this corrupt cop. It was disgusting.
Well, I could sit here and show cops doing horrible things every day on this show if I wanted to demonize police. But there is a culture in government of unaccountability. I mean, it's like the state police that put their hands, the two sisters, in their bodies. I mean, you could see the woman foisting her hand in the vaginal area, then into the other area. And the state police said, well, that's normal. This is our new thing. And I was like, whoa, I'm not going to go along with this. I mean, you're not doing this to my wife and children. And then everybody freaked out about it. So now they've indicted the police that did this. But the head of the state police, and before that, the local commander, defended it. It shows they're really getting out of touch.
And the only reason that became an issue was because the Dodds were willing to come forward with a lawsuit. If that didn't happen, No, the state police said we do this all the time. Right, right.
Not only is it illegal to do a cavity search without a warrant or an emergency, the same glove.
Yeah, yeah, it was disgusting. But not only were
2 girls, 1 glove.
Exactly, and both front and back. It completely.
Yeah, let's show that, folks. Can you show the women state police do cavity search of women?
And the thing is, Hellerson and Farrell, those were the 2 cops. They were the ones who did the deeds, but everyone in the chain of command, the entire Department of Public Safety rallied behind those guys. Not one cop came out and said, this is wrong.
Well, I mean, that's what the blood draws are all about. They know the beer's there. Sit outside the liquor store. Sit outside the, pull them over. No, they don't do that. They want you to go drink, and they want to put you in jail for 2 beers instead of going after people who are drunk, reckless driving. You don't need drunk driving charges. Reckless driving is a felony. But no, we're not going to people for reckless driving, which we had on the old code, because it's reckless driving regardless. Now it's 2 beers, you're going to go to jail. And I sat there, I'm not even going to say the guy's name, but a well-known cop. I sat there in a restaurant with my children a few weeks ago and watched him drink tequila shots and beer. And it just so happened I then came out of the movie theater after he did. It was a restaurant by it. Yeah, you can just roll the video. Yeah, there it is. And I watched the guy go out and get in the vehicle. Now, I'll be honest. I think the guy had a couple beers, a couple tequila shots. He's a big guy. I think he could drive fine after 2 hours. But I'll guarantee you, if they made him blow, DWI.
Right. And if it was someone that didn't have the magic costume on, they would get arrested for that.
Well, exactly. But my whole point is the heaviest drinkers I know are cops. How do they sit there and pull somebody over and then they blow a 0.9 or whatever, and then you go to jail? It's all, and now they take your kids. Now, I mean, it's any way to get us in the system. I'm seeing cases every day where pot smokers are having their kids taken. Yeah. I mean, that's basically revolution time right there. When the cops want to stick their fingers in your butt. I mean, I'm sorry to use that term for listeners, but I mean, you know, this is Twilight Zone. I mean, I worked as a large animal vet, and when we would do exams on cows, the vet would change his glove every time. Mm-hmm. A cow gets better treatment than we do. How does TSA do that?
Well, they're the government. And the problem is that people have this inability to separate the government from people. If people can't do it, if it's a crime when a person does it, and then all of a sudden when that person has authority from the government, they can do it, you know, that should be a problem. People shouldn't say just because you're a government employee, you can commit these crimes. But we live in a society where authority is everything, and people think that you have to give respect to people, and therefore those people in positions of authority have the right to commit crimes.
That is completely backwards. In the old days when this country was trying to follow the Bill of Rights, if you did have a uniform, you had to be commissioned by Congress to even have a uniform in the military. That's why they didn't want police to wear uniforms, because they're like, that's the military. But New York started it first. You had guys in suits, and let me tell you, they better behave themselves or they were in trouble, because people knew you've got to keep that authority in check. It's called a servant, not an official.
Right, and I would love to go back to the days when they were public servants.
Well, again, for me, the biggest thing is I've seen the video is you don't spit on him. And the fact that he'd try to put you in jail for, what was it, maybe 7 years if he'd have got you?
2 to 10 years.
Yeah, so the average is about 7, I was reading. So 7 years in jail, and they would sleep good, sending you to jail because you didn't follow his orders.
Right, to teach me respect. And he told me when I was in the truck, and it was just me and him, he said, you don't F with police, you F with the wrong cop, and now you're going to F and pay. And by that, he meant you're going to go to jail for a crime you didn't commit. But what really makes me mad is, yeah, this guy's a horrible, terrible person. He should go to jail for what he did. But what really makes me mad is the fact that it's clear, there's no question that he lied and he committed the felony crimes that night, and yet Chief Acevedo and other members of the Austin Police Department continue to support this notion that I was a criminal that night.
Well, here's the deal. If Acevedo doesn't say turn your guns in, Fidel Castro loves everybody. I mean, he says he doesn't like Fidel Castro, but Fidel Castro says a citizen shouldn't have guns. He says, you know, turn these guns in, turn these mags in, you know, or you're for the criminals. Criminals can get guns illegally. Criminals are going to get guns anyways. You're going to use a universal background check to take our guns. We all know what this is about. Art Acevedo is a smart guy. He knows. He says he wants to come in. I know he listens. Come on, let's go. I mean, you know, I'll be civil with you. And you know, he's a smart talker. But let me tell you, if he doesn't do that, the police union will have him out.
Oh, exactly.
So I mean, all it is that, yeah, our local gang is not as bad as other gangs on average, but they are still a gang.
Right.
And look at New York. I mean, I've talked to Austin cops that have asked directions of New York cops, and they scream at you. I've seen them do it to tourists with little kids and a family. I mean, no respect for themselves, no respect for anything. On just a wild power trip, the cops in New York smoke cigars on duty with their hats on sideways. What does that tell you?
Just they have no respect for themselves, for their uniform, or for the people.
Exactly, because even if you were a corrupt person, you'd want to treat the public with respect, because you want your family treated with respect. We're going to come back, talk about your case and where it's going and your website, and take phone calls.
Hi, this is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, with some news about some new additions to the InfoWars store. You know, good health is freedom. When you're healthy, you're not a slave to the medical system. Everything works well, your brain, your body, even your spirit. You're a healthier person. And to help support that great health, Alex has asked me to source the cleanest, most potent superfoods and other similar products in the world and bring them to the InfoWars store. So we've done that. The brand name is Health Ranger Select, and we're starting out right now with these 3 products. We've got Himalayan salt from Pakistan, formed hundreds of thousands of years ago in an ancient seabed long before modern pollution destroyed much of the oceans. This is loaded with trace minerals, and it's pristine, true, full-spectrum sea salt. We've also got Natural Attitude Turmeric. It's an extract of turmeric, very potent, tastes great, alcohol-free. This is from organic turmeric out of India. And we've also got Clean Chlorella. And we sourced and did research on all the chlorella sources around the world, and we found the 2 cleanest sources that have the lowest levels of any kind of contaminants. In fact, this one is virtually free of all metals and all contaminants. It's called Clean Chlorella, and it's about 2/3 protein, and it's got chlorophyll and chlorella growth factor in it. Check it out online. It's an amazing superfood that athletes are using and people are using to help support healthy lifestyles. It's fantastic. This is all packaged in our certified organic facility here in Central Texas. There we follow USDA certified standards, and we're audited every year by the USDA certifier to make sure that we comply with all organic standards. That, combined with the fact that we only source super clean superfoods and raw materials from around the world, means that our products represent the cleanest and most potent products that you'll find across the natural products industry. Check all of these out under the Health Ranger Select brand name at the InfoWars store, InfoWarsStore.com. And we'll be bringing you more of these in the near future. Thanks and take care.
Antonio Buehler is our guest. You know what? You're anti-police. Michael Morton, you know, they blocked testing the bloody bandana day one. For some reason, they wanted to put him in jail. Turned out they knew it, kept him in jail. That's a good thing. I mean, maybe they should human sacrifice him to the government. See, instead of just sacrificing people like other cultures did, they now just put you in prison to rot and then let the violent offenders out. What's wrong with that?
I mean, if you care about liberty, obviously that's a bad.
Do you, Antonio, do you want to worship government right now? Worship Art Aceveda, kneel to him, worship him, and maybe he'll work with the grand jury to drop the charges.
Yeah, well, the first thing, Art Aceveda is a politician. He doesn't care about anyone's rights. I don't want to worship anyone. I want people to be free, and I don't think that we should have to bow down before cops or politicians.
That's how an extremist would talk.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we are. We are extremists. They paint us as extremists. Southern Poverty Law Center that you were referencing before, anyone who even invokes the Bill of Rights is an extremist.
I think they should exhume the body of George Washington and publicly hang him for being a patriot.
Okay, and Thomas Jefferson too?
Well, they're all terrorists, exactly. Like, I think you're an extremist. No, seriously, I'm being sarcastic, obviously, before the news picks that up. What do you make of all this? Is it just now America's about licking government boots? And where is your case going currently?
Well, so we'll fight these stupid charges, and Norma was indicted as well on resisting arrest, even though it was illegal arrest. So we'll fight these, and then we'll go ahead and we'll file 1983 civil rights lawsuits against the cops. But I don't have any faith in the system working to protect me or other people. So we're going out and doing direct action. We're trying to expose the cops, the criminal cops, for what they do, videotape them, share the stories of abuse, and try to change the culture in America where people stop automatically worshiping authority and they start asking questions. And when they see a cop doing something illegal, they call them out for it.
That's actually an idea. We could have, like, instead of scarecrows, like images of cops out there, and then it'll be mandatory that when you see one, that it's a felony if you don't get out and worship just the uniform.
Or we could just put a bunch of scarecrows with people with cameras in their hand and just terrorize the cops.
Well, my whole issue is I run into a lot of Austin cops, and they say they're pro-Second Amendment, pro this and that. I mean, when they were giving tickets out to our crew under orders, later I went down, they all were like shaking my hand and going, oh, we think it's bull as well. And we went to the higher ups and said, you know, is this right? And then they said, no, don't do it anymore. My point is, why do they need to be told you don't have to do this? I mean, give people tickets for handing out magazines in downtown Austin.
Yeah, no, people should stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to participate in this. I'm not going to go after people who aren't committing a crime, and I'm not going to cover up for criminal cops. They should stand up and say, I'm going to do what's right. And, you know, I want to be called a hero. I want to be called a courageous, good cop. Well, prove it to us.
Why were they? Because I saw the video. I mean, and I'm not a special forces guy like you, where they teach you that, you know, how to be tortured so you know how to resist torture. I guess that's how you knew that. But I mean, it's 101 to grab the handcuffs and lift the arms up high. Because I've had cops do that to me when I'm not even resisting, as a way to cause pain, I guess, because that's how they feel powerful. Why was he doing that to the woman?
I think he was just trying to teach her a lesson. He was trying to show who was boss and was trying to hurt her. And I think it probably has to do with training. Either formal training or unformal.
Yeah, what is it when somebody isn't resisting where they all jump on your head with their knees and all the time break people's necks? I mean...
And they shout, "Stop resisting," the entire time because it's part of their training. They know that there are certain procedures that they need to go through to cover up their crimes.
But why don't they go join like a jiu-jitsu club or a boxing club? Because I guarantee you there's real guys want to fight with you there, not just jump on some woman who's handcuffed. I just don't get it.
Well, if you're a bully, you don't want someone to fight back. And if you have a badge and gun, people are less likely to fight back. And in Austin, Texas, you get paid very well to be a bully. Snyder, who assaulted Norma, he was only on the force for 3 years. He made $88,000 last year. Patrick Okorski, who's only been on the force for 12, 13 years, who assaulted me, he made nearly $130,000 last year.
Well, that's right. They're on the Special Praetorian Guard DWI detail.
Snyder's not.
Well, the point is the more people they arrest, the more money they get.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I heard that they make this... The county makes $6,500 per DUI arrest in this county. Patrick Okorski had over 300 arrests last year alone.
Well, you know what's a real bounty? They can make up to $500,000 on a kid. And that's why they're now taking people's kids if they find marijuana on them. They're calling it a narcotic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been taking kids for a long time. And Perry did it with those Mormon kids or whatever in North Texas.
And then it came out they weren't, last time I checked, doing anything to them. I mean, and again, they always choose some group that people think is a little weird. But then, oh, we burned down the Davidians because he might have been doing something with young women. I mean, oh, good, let's kill him. That'll fix it.
You're right, exactly. Same with the Ruby Ridge. You know, oh, white supremacists. So therefore, we're justified in killing them.
And it turned out he wasn't. They kept coming to him saying, "I'll give you all this money. Just saw off this shotgun." And they told him, "You're a former Special Forces Green Beret." In fact, I want to get him back on the show, Randy Weaver. "We want you to infiltrate the white supremacists." He said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And so they set him up and then shot his wife holding the baby and shot the little kid in the back.
Yeah, disgusting.
And Lon Horiuchi was very proud of himself. I mean, listen, I'm not that tough of a guy, but I've been in a lot of fights growing up in Dallas. For whatever reason, it was rough compared to this town, which I love the fact that people aren't getting in fights over nothing. But my whole deal is if like some big guy's acting tough and, you know, doing stuff, I like start thinking about what I'm going to do to him, how much I want to fight them because they're bigger than I am. It's just an instinct, I guess a Napoleon complex you could call it. But, you know, I mean, it's like, I'll show you, you know, like Yoda to Count Dooku or something. But I couldn't, but then it's embarrassing if someone's weaker than me to even imagine doing something to them. And then I see with thugs throughout history, they get more excited the weaker you are. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, these guys were so manly, you know, they want to, you know, like go get in a bar fight with, you know, like the real deal.
Yeah, and we've seen it before. We've seen the cops become extra aggressive towards the smaller women that they deal with. And Patrick Okorski has a history of abusing women, and we're going to expose that as well.
What's your proof?
Well, we have people who've been afraid to come forward because they're afraid of the Austin Police Department, but we have contacts both through direct contacts and through defense attorneys who know that this guy's been abusing people for years. Every defense attorney in town knows who he is, and we're going to expose that.
And so now they've indicted you.
Yeah, they've indicted me. Fortunately, it's not for the felony. They just threw a bunch of misdemeanors at me. Same with Norma. Same with another woman who was arrested for filming cops. But
you know, I knew a guy who was a Home Depot manager. I mean, he's been on the show before, but he got pulled over, and they said that he'd thrown a cigarette out the window, which, if I go from memory, he hadn't even done. And it's some famous cop. He's like a captain now. And there's squad car video of this, and the guy's, you know, he's paralyzed chest down. Mm-hmm. You know, he has hand controls. And the cop goes, "What are these?" He goes, "Those are my hand controls." He goes, "Get out." He goes, "My wife's got to get out and get my wheelchair." But yeah, and he goes, "No," I said, "Get out now." And he couldn't, so he beats him up because he won't walk. And then I see these TSA videos where they say to like the 90-year-old woman, "Get up," and she's like, "I'm dying of cancer." And then they drag him out and all this. It's like crazy people. I mean, I don't get. I just don't get it. Have you seen the video of them breaking pro-lifers' arms?
I haven't seen that, but I've seen hundreds of videos of cops committing violent crimes over the past year because once you get victimized, you just get consumed by it.
Have you seen all the videos of where people are in wheelchairs and they say, "Get up"?
Yeah, there's a really sad video of a woman who just dumps the guy out on his face. He's sitting in a jail in a wheelchair.
Well, some of those cases we followed where they really are quadriplegics, the bones are like sponge and it breaks their bones.
Yeah, it can't be good for them.
And then they laugh at him as the person's there defecating and urinating all over themselves. It's like, what? Oh, you threw a quadriplegic on the ground? This is the new... I mean, those people should be run out of the police force, but no, they're not.
Right, and all I'm asking is for the so-called good, courageous cops to step up and stand up to these bullies. Start protecting the people from these bullies. No one has stood up to Patrick Okorski. I want someone to stand up to him, or Robert Snyder, or Martinez, who I saw a woman at South by Southwest because she tried to stand up for her own dignity.
What happened?
They were just clearing the streets at the end of the night, and he's like, get off the road. And she goes, I am getting off the road. And then he pushes her, and then she stands up, and she's like, what are you doing? And then he wrestled her down. 2 more cops joined in on the assault, and then you can hear other cops out there saying, stop resisting, stop resisting. It was completely absurd.
I'll tell you what's creepy is I've been downtown to go see a movie at the Alamo Draft House downtown. Sometimes they only show films there, and I won't go on 6th Street. They got some nice restaurants down on 4th and stuff. And I've seen, like, cops with shaved heads, Satan tattoos on them, black gloves. They're like, get off the street. And then one time I looked and he goes, hi, Jones, how you doing? And I was like, whoa, that's a criminal. I mean, my immediate instinct was prepare for combat. You know, just that's a bad guy right there. And what's scary is back when I was in college, that was like the thug bouncers. Like, most bouncers aren't bad guys. We'd run into guys that were, you know, on it for a power trip, where you walk in with a really good-looking woman into a bar, and they go, what you doing, pretty boy? And I, you know, that's why I quit going down to 6th Street. Well, I'm not a pretty boy now. But the point is that, my God, we're just turning. I mean, we know North Korea, Mexico, all these other countries. You turn loose, you worship government, thugs get in, you never get out of it. Generations of slavery. I mean, we're going into this. And it's really crazy. Have you seen the shaved head? And I'm not saying everybody with a shaved head's bad. I was down there talking about, you know, shaved head goons that South by Southwest reportedly sent out when the cops wouldn't do the wrong thing anymore. And then the code enforcers wouldn't do the wrong thing. They then sent goons out. You know, big guys. Just, you know, the point is, it's the muscle type guy. Some guy had a shaved head. He goes, hey, what's wrong with the shaved head? My hair's all falling out. Soon mine will probably be shaved. My point is that what is this? I mean, have these guys not had their butts kicked properly? I mean, I just don't understand, like, wanting to dominate people.
Well, it's human nature, and when you look at the...
Not my nature.
No, not yours. And there are people, if you have morals, ethical, you know, groundings, you don't want to hurt people.
Well, it's not even that. It's shameful to want to dominate people that are under your control.
Right, but the Stanford prison experiment was one that showed us that when you give people power, authority, and control, that a huge segment of the population will go ahead and abuse that.
92%.
I didn't know the number. But
they began to desire to kill people for no reason.
Yeah, and you have examples through military and whatnot throughout the ages where torture becomes a pastime for these people.
Well, I mean, it's what happens when weak people take on the mantle of being men.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you ought to do with the Austin Police Department? You ought to, like, say, hey, let's have a charity boxing match. I guarantee you'd make $1 million. Let's say give it to children's charity or something. Not a CPS charity, one that maybe helps disabled kids. Yeah. I bet they'd chicken out and wouldn't have a boxing match. Would you have a boxing match with one of those guys?
Well, some of those guys are pretty pumped up on steroids.
Come on, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it.
It would depend. I boxed in college, and the difference of 20 pounds is huge, so, yeah.
I'm not afraid.
Well, yeah, I mean...
When they're in the wrong, you can't stomp somebody in the wrong?
Well, I rather stomp them through direct action, through, you know, exposing...
Come on, challenge him to a boxing match.
Well, there's a guy in downtown named Vest who's, you know, roided out. He's huge, and we saw him assaulting the victim of an altercation on 2 different occasions. That's a guy I don't want to step in the ring with.
I don't think that's scary. I couldn't even wake up till the guy's twice bigger than I am. How many fights you been in? You've been in the military over there in Iraq.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I haven't been in any fights in a long time. I don't believe in fighting.
You know, the fun... I'm not going to get into it. I'm just joking around. Anyways, the whole... I just don't get it. I just don't get men wanting to fight somebody that's weaker than them. I just don't get it.
Or worse, men who abuse women, right? Like they did to Norma on New Year's Day. They weren't even looking for a fight. They were just looking to throw her around because, 1, they knew that she couldn't fight back even if she wanted to because she was so much smaller. And 2, they had these badges and guns on, which meant that if she fought back, you know, it would have been a death wish. And so they abused her because they could, and they enjoyed it.
It's just so alien to me. I mean, I just can't get it. I just don't understand it. Have you noticed that it seems like they promote those people?
Yeah, and I don't want to use his name because you know, people take it the wrong way, but in the Dorner Manifesto, which I think was tampered with, but regardless, he made the point very clear that the people involved in the Rodney King beating are now the superintendents. They're up at the very top of the chain.
Yeah, but it shows how twisted he was from that culture that he'd go shoot somebody's, girlfriend to get at him or somebody's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just whacked out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely.
And then the cops burned him up and said they didn't, and burned him up in front of us and said they'd burn him up.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's bad. I think the police being out of control is a manifestation of the culture being out of control.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that people who are raising children go out of their way to tell their kids not to respect authority just because it's authority. Get them to question everything, get them to challenge, well, why is this person above me? Why does this person have authority over me? And get them to believe that they're sovereign, free individuals. And then when the cops are rounding people up, putting them in boxcars like they did in Germany, then people can stand up and say, no.
Well, why are you being anti-police? They were doing their job in Germany.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Doing your job is not sufficient. If you're doing an unethical, immoral job, you should either quit or resist.
I think you're going a little too far about Germany and Russia and China. I think it's a good idea. We turn all our guns in, worship the government, then they'll treat us nice. Actually, they won't. People say, well, I just grovel. They'll be nice to me. No, no, no. Bad guys will then get in that like to torture people.
Yeah, I mean, when you give them an inch, they take a mile.
Well, I don't know about all the specifics and all the cases and all the cops you're talking about. And again, I'll just be honest. And I'm not saying this because I live here, because I don't even live in Austin anymore. I live outside Austin. I've been all over the country. I know you have too. I mean, let me tell you, the cops are a lot worse in other areas.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Creepville, man. Have you been around New York?
I lived in New York, and it's degrees of bad. And what I'm looking for is I'm just looking for the good.
No, I know, but have you seen it where like pot-bellied cops have sideways hats on smoking cigarettes?
Well, I've seen the cops in New York do some pretty crazy stuff. But it's degrees of bad, and all I want are the good cops to stand up and start outing the bad cops, start arresting.
But I mean, if we let the cop, and then Arte Saveda will like fire a woman cop because she punched somebody who was, I think, on tape spitting in their face. So then that's a crime of passion. I think they say because she lied about it. But then it's all about burning a few cops to act like you're doing your job.
Oh, exactly. And so Arte Saveda will tell you, if you ask him about it, he'll say, no, I've fired cops before. But he fires them because they fail to tell the truth about how they committed a crime so that they can cover up for it. The problem with that female officer was she wasn't honest with her chain of command about what she did, so they weren't able to cover up for it. Patrick Okorski, he did it the right way. He stuck to his lie, and he told the chain of command exactly what happened, and then they rallied behind him.
Have you run into him yet?
I have. I've run into him a couple times. The first time was pretty passionate. I called him a coward. And then the other times, he hides his face from me. He runs away like all cowards do.
I think we should handle this by a boxing match. Have you seen the movie El Cid with Charlton Heston? You know, it's actually a true story.
No.
In the old days, they just put two guys in a ring with swords.
Yeah. Well,
people were pretty nice back then, though, because you didn't want to mess with somebody unless you could really back it up.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing. They hide behind their badges. Patrick Okorski would never stand up to even the women that he abuses without his badge and his gun.
Now, come on, it's not abuse to like tackle a woman. That's friendly.
They twisted her arms. It was the torture move is